I'm Karen Foley. We're here at the Calabasas Library, and we're celebrating Authors Night. And our guest today is Sylvie Fox, who wrote a debut novel entitled Puppy Love. Now, you live here in the Valley with your husband, your son, and assorted animals that you rescued?
Yes, I do.
What animals did you rescue? That always appeals to me.
Well, let me say this. Sadly, we have two. So when I probably first met you, we had five.
Five now?
No, we rescued 5 animals in 1998, but we've had a lot of deaths. So right now we have one dog.
What kind of animals did you rescue?
A cat who had a litter of kittens and 2 rescue dogs. One was a stray on the street and then one from the pound.
So you believe in the rescue approach to animals?
Very much so.
So what made you stop, look around you, and decide that you were going to write your own book?
I started writing a novel in, oh my God, maybe the mid-90s.
Mid-90s?
When I was practicing law, but I couldn't get it.
Was it this book that we're...
No.
Another book.
Another book. But I couldn't get it finished. So I took a class, actually, when I moved to Los Angeles on how to finish your novel. And by the time I realized I could finish one, it was much easier to write the second.
Okay.
And this one is the third I wrote.
When did you start writing as kind of an avocation? Did you start in school, writing any poetry, any short stories?
I used to write newspaper.
Oh, for your local school?
In school, in Cleveland, in various places that I lived. I would write on spec articles, features, various interviews, things like that.
So you enjoyed it?
I did.
Did you always know you were going to become a writer?
I avoided it. My mother would probably say yes. So I wrote a lot, and I still wrote essays up until maybe a year ago for various online newspapers, but I was avoiding it because I find it hard.
Who was your muse? Who helped you achieve becoming a writer, or did you have to go it all alone?
I think I had to go it all alone. I had various people encouraging me, but I was always quitting to try something else. So it wasn't until maybe 2008 that I sat down and decided to do it full time.
So you took every day? Do you write every single day?
Yes.
Still?
Yes.
Make it a priority of your day?
Yeah, yes. So my son leaves for school at about 7:30, and I try to write about 1,600 words a day.
It takes a lot of discipline. I very, very much respect that. So where did you get the inspiration for this book, Puppy Love?
I was driving to my last job as a lawyer, and I saw a puppy running down the 101 freeway.
So that therein lies the puppy.
Yes.
Okay, tell us something about the book itself. One thing I really enjoyed the read is that it was all here on familiar streets and neighborhoods in the Valley.
Yes, I've gotten that from a lot of friends or friends of friends who've read it. So it's very easy for me to write about place, and since I live here, I drive around and come up with ideas.
Well, I've got to tell you, when I first saw the title of the book, I said, oh, a children's author. And then when I started reading it, I said, oh, no, I'm incorrect. It's not a children's book. It's a young adult book, a YA as they call it, I understand. And the more I got into it, I said, oh, no, it's quite a sensuous book.
Yes.
It really is, and they very multidimensional.
I would say that. I will say only. So I write romance, at least this.
Oh, so you are into writing romance novels?
Mostly. I write romance and women's fiction, so mostly about women's journey, whether that involves men or not, is a different conversation.
Because it has some very interesting, steamy sex scenes in it.
Yes, it does.
Which I knew was not for children or young adults.
No, so all of the romance publishers I know market to 18 plus for that reason.
Okay, now I'm glad I was on the right track because I really enjoyed reading it and very interested to follow it from the beginning and to the end. I loved your quirky cast of characters. They were all from different backgrounds.
Yes.
A great mix of people. I think each person out here could identify with at least one of them. Is anyone taken after your personality?
No, no, my life is not that interesting at all. But I do meet a very interesting groups of people since I've been in Los Angeles, as well as living in New York City. So I think my life is filled with quite a mix of eclectic people.
Why did you move out here?
Weather? Just the weather.
From New York to California.
Just the weather.
Just the weather.
That's the main reason, yes.
I can understand that. When I was there in March, it was the same weather I had last December. Snow, rain, sleet.
And I don't miss that. I think I got tired of cleaning the snow off my car, just a lot of precipitation, shall we say. So as a child, we came on a trip to California and drove all the way down the coast as a family vacation when I was maybe 16. And I thought, frankly, it was the best place I'd ever seen. So my goal was to get here.
It is weather. We take it so much for granted.
It's very pretty.
Okay, so describe some of the characters. Sophie?
So Sophie's the heroine, protagonist of the novel. She's quirky, to say the least. She changes her hair color.
A free spirit.
Yes, I think that's a nice way of putting it. She changes her hair color fairly often, has tattoos, and sort of lives a very unconventional life.
But very direct. Unconventional, but a very straightforward life. She doesn't pretend to be something she's not really.
No, but I think I find that different than a lot of people I meet in LA.
Yes. You never know who you're really meeting. Yes. And then there's the gentleman she meets, the man she meets, Ryan.
Yes, who's, I think, very straight-laced and very conventional. He comes from a poor background and spends a lot of time trying to, I guess, remediate that, become successful in his career, have monetary success as well. And
then we've got their relatives and their families that are all really interesting. Anything with family drama always attracts my attention. And then, of course, the puppy they meet.
Yes.
Tell us how Sophie and Ryan meet over the puppy.
So she's getting on the 101 freeway going to work, and a dog starts running around the side of the freeway, and all the traffic stops with people getting out of their cars to try to catch the dog. And she and Ryan ultimately do catch the dog.
You made them all independent people in the book unto themselves. They all stood alone with their personalities and yet blended well with anybody else. And you say you're no character in this book.
No.
But did you take any of the experiences from real life?
The only experience was driving down the freeway and seeing the dog run on the freeway. I was going to work, and I couldn't figure out why all the traffic had stopped, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I was going to be late for work. And by the time I got onto the freeway, I realized everybody was standing on the freeway trying to run down this dog.
Was the dog okay?
I don't know. I think somebody captured the dog, but the car started moving, and obviously you have to get back into your car, so I don't know.
You have to make a quick decision on that.
So a friend of mine who commutes a little later said that she was pretty sure somebody got the dog, but I honestly have no idea.
There's some basic themes outside of the relationships running through the book. One, of course, is the validity and the importance of pet rescue operations and unions.
Yes.
What have you had experience with unions?
Personally, no, but I had a lot of friends who were impacted by the writers' strike in Los Angeles in, good grief, 2006 maybe? I don't remember the year. But a lot of people I know were out of work, and it divided a lot of people, especially actually in the reality show writing community, because ultimately the agreement did not cover them. And a lot of people felt strongly that people who did writing on reality shows should be covered by the union.
And another theme I really like is living and being who you really are, being your own person. And that's hard to come by sometimes.
But I think at least I'm finding with age, people are becoming more self-actualized and making a greater effort to be who they are.
Sometimes it's hard.
It is very, very hard.
It really is hard. And the acceptance of other people. And another one which is important that we haven't touched on is trying to be emotionally fulfilled. I think you can't be emotionally fulfilled until you really become your own person. How do you feel about that?
I think that's true, and I think that a lot of people try to seek emotional fulfillment through jobs, family, rescuing pets, whatever that may be, but I think it's all about figuring out who you are and being okay with that before you can make those other kinds of commitments.
I think it takes a lot of courage.
I think that's true. But I think that hopefully comes with age. And it's harder, I think, for younger people to sort of
very hard
do that.
I want to go more into this book on how they finally became grown up, got out of their younger self and became, like you said, the person that they are. And if you can stick with me out there in TV land, Sophie and Ryan will come back and we'll meet Sylvie Fox again and her book, Puppy Love.
Keep your family safe. Improve your gas mileage. Extend the life of your tires. How do you do it? It's easy. Just check it. Your tire pressure, that is. Keeping your tires properly inflated protects the environment, gives you peace of mind, and saves you money for more important things. So just check it once a month. A message from Cal Recycle.
I'm back, Karen Foley at the library, Sylvie Fox and her book Puppy Love with the two main characters, Sophie and Ryan. I would think the audience would like to know more about what goes on in the book because it goes through several chapters in their life when they go from independent people, independent of each other, doing a life that may not be theirs for the future, and how they learn to make the compromise and changes and become the people that they are.
So I'll tell you a little bit first about Sophie. So Sophie's a makeup artist in Los Angeles and dropped out of college, but has very prominent and successful parents, her father being a judge from La Cañada. So I think that she starts out, we'll call her fairly rebellious. She's doing her own thing, not at all what her family wants her to do. Ryan, on the other hand, I think is pretty much the opposite. He's doing exactly what he feels he should do. His father has died in an accident at work. His mother had cleaned houses for a living, and he had spent a number of years going to school, getting a job, and trying to make up, I think, for his background by becoming successful as an in-house attorney. And so they do meet, and clearly those two personalities, I think, spark off of each other. He's very much about doing what he believes is right, and she's very much about rebelling against what she thinks people want her to do. It's a fairly traditional romance. I write those fairly traditional romance, which sort of follows the journey of two characters overcoming differences, whatever those may be, to find what we call a happy.
Overcoming themselves.
Yes. More, we call it growth. To find.
They had some great moms, though.
Yes.
I like their mothers.
Yes, good mothers make growth easier, but sort of overcoming that and growing to be able to find a happy ever after with each other. And she grows a lot by, I think, overcoming being a rebel. That had sort of defined her life. And she spends, I think, much of the book moving beyond that, moving beyond rebelling against her family and her family values. And on the other hand, he sort of...
Kind of a tight guy.
Straight-laced.
Straight-laced. I'm trying to not say that other part of this word. Straight-laced is perfectly put, yes.
Straight-laced, very together, conservative. And spending time realizing that he can find happiness with somebody who hasn't walked the straight and narrow path.
It's nice to find someone who really cares for you. Makeup, hair, clothing, not important, that zeroes in on you as a real person. I think he did that with her.
Yes, I think he was able to get past the outer shell, let's say, she has, whether that's, outrageous clothing, outrageous hair colors, tattoos, those kinds of things that many people find off-putting. He was able to sort of drill down and get beyond all of that surface rebellion to find out who the person was underneath.
So you weren't that girl when you grew up?
No. I always did what I was told.
That would have been fun.
It probably would have, but I was not that child.
So maybe you're writing about the person you wanted to be.
Perhaps. Although I still can't imagine the hair color or tattoos. But I think that he needed to sort of grow beyond the idea that following the straight and narrow path is the only way to go about finding fulfillment in life, and that you can sort of branch out a little from that. Although I think she maybe had more growth than he did.
Well, there was some pretty tense stuff in there about the unions.
Yes.
And the fighting that went on between the unions, and each kind of thought the other was opposed to their position.
But I think there's a lot of that inherent, at least from people I know, sort of inherent clash between people who work whatever the union job is or the below-the-line job and the people who work in management. I know a lot of people who work in upper management at various studios who think that the people in union have it easy. And the people in unions who I know that think that they don't have it easy and that management disregards their grievances, especially when it comes to health insurance, working hours, things like that.
Well, I don't want to give away the ending, but it's certainly a very, very good read. It's well written, succinct, and the characters are a lot of fun to get to know better and better. How long did it take for you to write it?
That book probably took me 6 months. But I was in, at that time, sort of a writing group that's called, the acronym is actually offensive. So basically that's all basically about spending time together every day, meeting very specific writing goals.
Do you think it's important or helpful maybe to join a writing group? Does that keep you pen to paper, so to speak?
It helps a lot when, especially now and with social networking, people know when you're on Facebook or Twitter or doing things other than writing, and will usually call you out on it and direct you back to what you probably should be doing. But the writing groups have helped. I do belong to writing groups. We have meetings maybe once a month where we talk about writing goals, craft, as well as business.
So are you still in the writing group?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I go right now down to Orange County once a month and meet with a group of women who write.
Now, you said something about this book being the first to be in just digital. I didn't understand that when we first started talking several months ago.
So a number of publishers, I guess in the last maybe 5 years, have really started doing what we call digital first imprints, where they release books as ebooks digitally and then follow up with print.
So you start digital and then you go
to print, yes.
To print.
I think the belief by publishers is that you can sell ebooks and lure people into buying more books with a lower price point and immediate accessibility.
I was only a print reader until about 6 months ago. And I cannot be separated from my iPad now.
Yes, I will unfortunately admit that I did not read a digital book until December of last year, because I generally read print books as well. But my mother sent me a Kindle for Christmas, and I found it quite addictive.
There's a lot to be said when you're just half awake, maybe even in the middle of the night, just to reach out, and you don't have to turn on any lights. Just get that iPad in front of you and just...
Yes.
And then you know the next time you pick it up, it goes right to that page.
Yeah, so I think that publishers have capitalized on that immediate accessibility, and have pushed digital books as well. I think it's sort of the new, we'll call it Pulp Fiction, just in a way for publishers to have a quick turnaround with books that they think are going to meet readers' needs. So if motorcycles, which are hugely popular right now, motorcycle romances are popular, they can publish those quickly rather than the 12 to 18 month turnaround that you get with print publishing.
But I still always like a library.
And so
I mean, to walk in, I feel I'm home.
I do, so I will admit that I do that as well. I mean, I have a lot of books, a lot of paper books, and I really enjoy reading. So I think that publishers that have sort of built on that hybrid model of both ebook and print will
You
be the
had
best.
mentioned that. Something, where do I have those words? That a hybrid author. So what does that exactly mean?
Well, a hybrid author, I think, touches on some other issues, including publishing digitally, publishing traditional through like a New York publisher, as well as some independent publishing.
When you have two publishers?
I do not, but most authors I know have more than one, so that they can diversify, sort of like stock portfolio. So ebook publishers tend to have a very fast turnaround. So if you would like to write something that your readers want in, let's say, 8 months, then they can have that immediately. But New York publishers have a greater reach with bookstores, libraries, etc. And so if you want a bigger reach and bigger audience, then New York publishers certainly can provide that. But the turnaround time between writing the book and publication may be 2 years. And then many authors I know are also doing independent publishing or self-publishing, where they're publishing their own books with whatever.
Wouldn't that tend to get very expensive?
The self-publishing?
Yeah.
Not nearly. Not anymore now.
Really?
Yes. So most authors I know who self-publish can do it, to be honest, for about, I don't know, $500.
Then how do they get their books known to the public?
There are a lot of publications that advertise specifically to readers who are looking for those kinds of books.
Is that what you do too as a hybrid author?
That is certainly my hope. So my hope is to diversify in the way that authors are, to be able to reach basically all the readers that you can with different venues.
And you get advertised as much as you can?
That's correct, yes. A lot.
Do you do all your own advertising?
As with the publisher I'm now, no. So I do, but I still end up doing the bulk of the promotional work. But the publisher will certainly advertise the brand themselves, because they're selling obviously lots and lots of books. So their goal is to build a brand and sell as many books under that brand. Obviously, as an individual author, your goal is to sell as many books of yours as you can. So most authors I know are certainly building a brand, a certain kind of way that they write, no matter how they're published, to reach readers.
So this is your life.
Yes, it's a
I mean,
full-time
it's like
job.
a 24-hour commitment.
I try to keep it down to 8 to 10, but it ends up being very much. So my day now, I spend the morning doing some promotion. Readers email you and you try to respond to those, whether or not you're spending time on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, with the idea of doing promotions, speaking with other authors, talking to the publisher. Then I have to turn it off because otherwise I can't write. So then I spend several, maybe 5 hours a day writing, and then also doing the business things at the end of the day.
Do you blog?
Yes, I
do you
do
have
that too.
Do you have a blog?
I do.
Oh, really?
Yes, so I blog, but not as often as I used to. I used to blog maybe twice a week. Now it's down to once a week because I can only do so much.
Are there people who blog every day?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know how they do it. I
was
can't
gonna say,
answer that.
how exciting their lives must be that you could say something that everybody wants to hear about every single day.
But a lot of authors I know do that because they feel that they and publishers feel that you need to have reader engagement, and readers like to, in this day and age, like to have daily, weekly, whatever that is, engagement with the authors that they like. So the authors try to cater to that by blogging on Twitter, Facebook, every day, hourly, some of them.
Do they have just like one venue that they blog, or how do they get the word out that they're now a blogger?
Usually they have, most authors I know have a Facebook page where they will post things. They post them on Twitter, and there are certainly applications that you can use that will post to all of them for you, which is what I use, because otherwise you would never see the light of day. And then also most authors I know have newsletters, so readers will sign up for your newsletter, and then you can let them know that you have new books, blogs, whatever that is, available to them.
So that there's people out there, maybe in our audience, who have yearned to write, but don't have what it takes to really dedicate themselves, or they're not able to, or don't wish to do with diligence like you're doing.
But the writing is always, I think, most important. I think we may have been sidetracked by all of the promotion, but in the end of the day, writing a good book and writing the next book is the most important thing, and what I think anybody should dedicate the majority of their time to.
Do you try to teach lessons in the things that you write about, a moral or a purpose? You try to teach us something when you write your book?
I do, not in this book per se, but I've written other books that I think I'm much more interested in getting a message across. So my first two books were actually legal thrillers, but they involved, one was a woman whose daughter goes into foster care, and I spent a lot of time, I think, being instructive about how I feel the foster care system treats children now. And then the second book was about corrupt judges, which I think is somewhat, I think if you read the news today about the judges who were receiving bribes or payment to incarcerate children, there are many corruption scandals that I've been familiar with during my years as a lawyer, and I thought that those kinds of things should be brought to light. So I have moments where I think I'm instructive.
Have you made new friends through some of your writings, people who have contacted you? Do you ever end up with almost like a personal rapport with them?
Not as much as maybe people would have in the past, because the contact now is actually usually through Facebook or something like that. So the depth of the contact is not necessarily there. It's fairly short. You know, hi, how are you? And
I would
then
think
I
you
like
would
your
prefer
book.
it that way. I mean, you're there to write.
I might prefer it that way, but I certainly do respond to all readers who contact me.
But what are your new plans? What are you now in the progress of that you are going to have something forthcoming in the future? Are you working on something specific for us?
So I'm always working on something. So right now, I just finished a book about a woman who met her soulmate, but she was already married. So I think we'll call that women's fiction, and how she deals with meeting somebody new when she currently has someone already. And then
Is that a romance audience?
Romance. We call it women's fiction because it's a longer journey than romance. Okay. And then I'm also working on a book about a stand-up comedian who falls in love with somebody who's got many problems.
I hope when everything else is through, your projects in the future, you'll get back to us. We can see about featuring you again, because I like what you have to say.
Well, thank you. And
I know our audience will enjoy it also, not only puppy love, but learning more about Sylvie Fox and what she's in progress of doing. So stay tuned. You will see it. You will hear about it. And we thank you for meeting with us with Sylvie Fox, for having her as our honored guest author. And we thank our Media Operations Department, the City of Calabasas, and our City Library. And thank you for watching our Author's Night. Karen Foley saying goodbye